Another African country has joined granting citizenship for African descendants. Hello, I am Mahlet Ayele, bringing you the latest from the continent. And this kind of news are one of those who makes me really excited. Even to report it and to know about it. So Benin has joined other African countries granting citizenship based on descent, meaning being an African descendant, not necessarily to be from Benin, but for any African descendant. Hello, yeah. So let's go now. I'm going to share the news that came out from Benin, and this is what it says. So Benin, it's in the parliament and possibly it's going to be approved. So Benin proposes law to grant citizenship to African descendants. Now, this was a proposal was done by the president, led by the president on 8th of May. So that was, on Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. So the Benin's government, led by President Patrice Talon of the current president, has submitted a bill to Parliament to grant Benin citizenship to individuals of African descent, not Benin's descent, but African descent, okay? Now, there are two things. Is it something just based on really because they deserve, or is it something political? So I'm going to read out for you and then give you my opinion as well on it. So according to the government, this bill seeks to strengthen cultural and historical ties with the descendants of Africans, deported during the slave trade, addressing the deep wounds on African societies in general and on the descendants of those deported and enslaved in particular. This is really, important how they framed it, why they are granting the citizenship. Now, the General Secretariat of the Government of Benin states that the proposed law officer offers Benin citizenship by recognition to individuals who can, prove their sub-Saharan African ancestry deported outside the African continent as part of the slave trade. Sub-Saharan means, not the North Africa, but the Sub-Saharan. To be eligible, it says to be eligible, applicants, now these are the requirements. How do you do it? So applicants must provide evidence of their African descent through civil status documents, authenticated testimonies or DNA tests conducted by accredited institution in Benin. So that is the requirement. Now the question is how many of them will be able to do it. But let's go now. Again, the bill also states that proof of afro-descendants is provided by the applicant by means of any civil status or official documentation. All testimonies established by authentic deed, a DNA test carried out by an approved structure in Benin or by any other technical or scientific means. Okay, it gets a bit easier. However, it's essential to note that this recognition of nationality does not grant political rights, right to vote, okay, or access to civil service positions. Okay, there's a limit for it. Now, a successful applicant who presented all the above required documents will receive a 3-year passport, but to obtain a naturalization certificate, they must stay in the country a few days before their passport expires. Okay, that's not bad, just a few days you have to stay before that 3 years passport expires. So they give you a Benin's passport. Now, what does this passport bring with it? Meaning having a Benin passport means what? It gives you access to go where and where. Now, okay, before that, let me just state this. Now, the statement from the Secretariat of the government explains that the major aims is, of course, to allow African descendants to reconnect with their roots and maintain a living link with the lands of their ancestors. Very good and very well said, really. Now, it's because in recognition that most African descendants or afro-descendants wish to find a link with their original kingdoms, or failing that, with the republics which replaced them. Now, the government hopes this law will encourage African descendants to invest in the country and participate in the socio-economic development. Well done. You know, there are many Afro-descendants living outside of Africa. They don't know how to where to invest, how to get an access an African passport. So, meaning a country which is basically in Africa. So far, we don't have an AU, the African Union passport. So, but it allows them in these individual member states of the African Union to invest in those countries, because whatever they save and send will be really a great amount. They will be more rich, actually, to be in Africa or to invest in Africa than in other countries. Now, this is so probably the motivation, first, of course, allowing them and stating first and foremost for them to create an opportunity to connect with their roots. That's what the Beninese government led by Patrice Talon is telling us. The second, of course, that they hope that they will be able, or they will invest as well in Benin or in any country that, that passport will allow them to enter. Now, the parliament is reviewing the bill and preparing to vote on it. So when adopted, and if adopted, this legislation would place Benin amongst other few African countries who are providing citizenship based on descent. So there is Ghana, there is Sierra Leone, there is Liberia, and also there is Eritrea from East Africa. But there are also other countries who are doing that in East Africa. Anyway, so now there are also South Sudan itself, Rwanda, Zambia, from what I told you, in addition to what I told you. So that will make it what? So totally, we have Liberia, Sierra Leone, Sudan, South Sudan, Eritrea, Rwanda, and Zambia. So where is Ghana? I think somebody have forgotten to state this. So these are countries who grant citizenship by descent to third generation dependents and beyond, not really immediate generation, where like not the second generation, or because you are a parent of a child born this and that. Yeah, so this is for third generation and beyond. Now, the law, that gives authenticity for Benin government to present this proposal is, of course, look, the Article 98 of the Benin Constitution provides that this it will read as follows: citizenship and civil rights are the domain of the law. That's what it says. Okay, now, although Benin's nationality by recognition confers on its holder all the rights and obligations attached to it, it accepts political right and access to the Benin's civil service. So this is in accordance with their Article 36. Okay, so now, this initiative follows the government's recent decision to waive visa requirements for citizens of Benin. Not only this, granting citizenship based on descent, but also they have waived visa for 31 African countries. That is more than half, like more than 2/3. Am I right? Yeah, I think so. Amongst 55 countries, they grant a free visa on arrival, or just a free one for 31 African countries for staying, for less than 90 days. If you stay more than that, then you have to acquire a visa. But even 90 days, it's a lot. It's very good, I would say. Now, the government believes that this bill submitted to the national representation once again reinforces also the Pan-African policy advocated by the government of Benin, especially since 2016, which is abolition of visa for all African nationals. Okay, they have not given that, but at least they are allowing 31 African countries or nationals from those countries to stay in Benin for up to maximum 90 days. Now, there are those who say, oh, this is political, not a genuine benefit. But even if they're thinking of, the motivation comes not only to connect, for them to be able to connect with their roots, but also, to get an economic gain. Let it be. Instead of a foreigner and coming investing, better you give for someone who is an African descent, who understands the culture, who loves the continent, who can do good to the people, who is not brainwashed in that neocolonizing and neocolonialism mentality. So it's better, I think, even if it's an economic motivation, let it be. So this is the argument. Now, Benin's government has made it clear that it's based this bill on culturally rooted foundation and a desire for a greater Pan-African unity, even if it does hope that interested applicants invest in the country and provide economic growth. But however, now those who are disagreeing with this are, who qualifies? The question arises, will they do so for sentimental value, or is there a tangible benefit to holding Benin passport? Yes, definitely. Do you know how many African countries, African descendants who wants to be allowed to come to the country and stay in the country and without any visa hassle, and even to grant them citizenship it's beyond their expectation. So you will really make those African descendants very happy. So the eligible persons will initially receive a 3-year Benin passport, which provides visa-free access to 63. So what it does is by holding that Benin's passport, it will give you a free access to enter to 63 countries in the world. Most of them in Africa. We just said 31 African countries, and then you have Latin America and then Asia. So there's no Europe and US, but I mean, who cares really? If you really want to be in the continent, and it allows you to be to enter more than 2/3 of the continent. What do you want? So while Benin's passport has limited global mobility, the country is part of the economic community of, so there is also ECOWAS, which is 15 countries. It's a Western African bloc, and it also allows you, but yeah, that included, there are 31 African countries that this passport allows you to enter and, do invest what you like, visit or whatever, but most importantly, connect with your roots. That's the most important thing. And this is the Pan-African solidarity, not only within the continent, but also granting it to those African descents. This is really a good step by Benin. They have also, we came and appreciated them when they allowed when independent of ECOWAS, who banned Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali in those times. Benin was the first country. Okay, enough is enough. We should allow these countries. We cannot continue to alienate them. And they refreshed or again kind of renewed their relation with these countries and started, trade and everything again. So thanks again for being here, for tuning in. Thank you all for supporting us in our PayPal Really, that means really a lot. Thank you, each and every one of you. And please go ahead and comment below what do you think of granting citizenship for African descendants wherever you are. Is your country, if you are originally from Africa, then is your country granting citizenship for African descents, and why? Ethiopia gives it, but not for a third generation, not citizenship, but kind of national identity, like an ID, which is kind of equal to with uh, the Ethiopians in the diaspora, because they have the birthright. I know that the Rastafari community has gotten it. I don't know how it works for the rest of African descents, but I would say those African countries, that we called that we mentioned above, have the best facility for now, but hopefully other African countries follow. But let us know in the comment section what do you think of this. That was it for now. Thanks again, and it's a ciao ciao for me. I'll see you on the next one.